Testing one, two. Commissioners Court will meet in our workshop session. It's August the 12th, 9 a.m., Brazos County Administration Building, 200 South Texas Avenue, Suite 106. First item on the agenda is called to order. The second is presentation and discussion of the FY 26-27 county budget and funds. Nina.
Good morning. I hope everybody had a good rest last night. This is day 3 of our budget workshops and proposing the FY 27 budget. The first agenda item will be to go over the special revenue funds. I want to make sure that the public understands that the funds we're about to go over has no effect on the general fund unless we have to transfer to offset some costs, and that's very rare. First, we're going to go ahead and go over the hotel occupancy tax fund. You can see that there's an increase of $1.7 million. I increased that amount for the hotel tax because there's still some work that needs to be completed at the expo on the deferred maintenance, and this is a little cush just in case something comes up above and beyond the $10 million, and so we're able to help out with the deferred maintenance out of the hot fund, and so that's just in case some of the bids come up over that $10 million. It will not be used unless it does, okay? The next step is going to be the state lateral road. $37,000 has increased, and this is to be used for FM for road projects and that intersect state highways and farm to market roads, and so it can only be used for those projects. Next up is unclaimed property fund. You see there's a decrease of $120,000. Law library fund, an increase of $51,000. This is where we take out Westlaw and Nexus Lexus. And so we receive a fee, and so this is where we cover those costs instead of the general fund. We take out the contract, the subscription fees out of this fund. The local provider partnership, better known as LPPF, it has decreased in 8.4. Some of the expenditures that were wired to HHSC this year were a little bit more than years prior. This year, it will be budgeted at $58 million. Around September 1st or September 15th, we will set that tax rate for the hospitals. Remind you, that's not the tax rate for property owners. It's a tax rate set for the hospitals. And so be looking for the public hearing in the near future for that one. Next up is the law enforcement education fund. It has decreased in $25,000 due to them spending more than what we're bringing in, which is okay. And that is to be used for any educational conferences, training, equipment.
Is that for all law enforcement, both sheriff and constables?
Right, they get a certain percentage based on a calculation, and so they share between all four, as well as the county attorney and the DA. And
Okay.
so it's up to them to spend it however they see fit based on certain requirements.
Okay.
The next up is going to be County Clerk Record Management Fund. It has increased by $216,000, totaling of $1.9 million. And this fund, County Clerk had requested a new software. This is where a portion of it will come out in next year. And so they're able to help offset some of that cost. The County Clerk Archival Fund, $2.1 million. It has increased $730. Courthouse Security Fund, $455,000 will be budgeted next year, and this is very specific for items for courthouse security. Say, for instance, if they need a screen to view cameras or anything that's needed for courthouse security, it's under the guidance of the sheriff's office, and they're able to use that funding for it.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about that? Can that be utilized for the juvenile courthouse that we have over in the juvenile center?
It has to be where all courthouses, all courtrooms are housed, and it's up to the sheriff to use that funding.
So the remote courthouses are not included in that?
Anything outside the courthouse is not included.
So what do they have?
Who?
The juvenile, because they have court at the juvenile center, right?
But it's outside the courthouse. So those funds are not able to be used for them.
So what about when we add the courthouse annex? Will we be able to use those funds?
As long as it's conjoining to the courthouse, then we possibly can.
Probably can?
We can, because
Okay.
there's a skywalk connecting them to.
Right.
And so it's very specific in the
Because
statute.
it does say court annex.
It says court annex. It doesn't matter about the title. The specific words in the statute, it has to be where all the courtrooms are, the major courthouse, the courtrooms are housed in the courthouse. Now, if we have a connection, which is the sky bridge, is connecting the annex, it's connecting to the courthouse, we can. Now, if it's separated and outside of the courthouse, we cannot.
Okay, gotcha. If it's
Okay.
physically not attached.
Right, and those funds are obligated underneath the sheriff's office,
All righty, Sheriff.
discretion of the sheriff.
Handle it. No, he acknowledged it. He gave me the bro nod.
You're doing a great job, Nina. That's what he was saying.
He gave me a bro nod.
I would love to draw a picture, but the Sky Bridge, connects us too. Okay, so like the JP courtrooms, they're not able to have this funds. They have their own separate funds, and we'll get to them here shortly.
Yeah, that looks like the next
Which is
item.
next, Justice Court, Court Security Fund. And we have two different types of Justice Court funds, and so I want to read them separately, just so everybody's understanding. That's going to increase by $338,000. And this fee is for each case filed in a justice of the peace for the purpose of funding for operational costs and providing adequate court security. Okay, so 1 year we needed additional cameras. We can use that for those courtrooms. Additional card swipes.
So the fees that they collect? Okay.
For the justice courts located outside the county courthouse. So JP4 will not be able to allocate this funding. It's only 1, 2, and 3 because it's outside the courthouse.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
But eventually, no, because they'll be attached to the.
To be attached to the main.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah, all righty.
Do they have a council that makes recommendations regarding the threat assessment toward those courts? Like their courthouse does?
Who, the JPs?
Yeah,
They haven't brought anything.
okay.
Now, I do rely on the constables if there is something that needs to be brought up. I do rely on the constables to sit there and let us know if there's additional information or additional services that we need, but nothing has been brought forth. I know we've added card swipe, additional cameras, additional monitors, and that sorts in the past, but nothing very specific or nothing lately.
Okay.
Regarding the county and district court tech fund, here's another one. This is $178,000. Where I'm at.
Is there anything in these two district clerk funds and the county clerk funds that prohibit them from collaboratively working to purchase software that will store and archive records?
Nope, as long as the district clerk authorizes it.
Okay.
Okay. For the district clerk archival fund, you see there's nothing left. That has been closed out. You have the Justice of the Peace Technology Fund. This is, again, fees collected by the Justice of the Peace, and it's for all four, and they can use it for anything technology related. So they were buying ticket writers, or if they go to a conference, that portion of it is technology-based. They can charge it back to the tech fund. Cell phones, some of them have iPads, so anything that is tech required, they can use it out of there, and it's all for. And it's set by funds each court sets.
Okay.
The county and district court tech fund, that's where I'm at, $178,000. Let me read you what that one is. I used to have all of them memorized. This is a defendant convicted of a criminal offense in a county court, statutory court, county court, or district court shall pay a fee. This could be used for any technological, sorry, I can't read, needs for the county and district courts. So anything that CCL or the district courts need, not associates, only CCLs and the county courts, we're able to establish funding for them. So if they need to redo some of their screens or any, their mics, podiums, we're able to use that, okay? Forfeiture funds, this is for anything that the DA, county attorney, constables, sheriff's office, if they seize and they receive funding for it, this is strictly for those departments, and they can use it for wherever they see fit.
So each respective department, whatever they receive through forfeiture, they get.
They get, and they can use it however they see fit.
Okay.
The DA hot check collection fund, $6,000. They can only use it for certain items. Bail bond board fund, $135. It can only be used for the bail bonds. Vehicle inventory tax interest fund, $563,000. This can only be used for vehicle inventory at the tax office. And so if she needed like a new software or computers that are just for vehicle related, she's able to purchase out of that fund.
Okay.
Sheriff Crime Fund, $115,000. It has decreased by $5,000. Again, this is under the sheriff's office, and he can use it however he sees fit. The District Attorney Crime Fund, $125,000. Same thing. The DA can use this money however they see fit. Election Contracts Fund, $48,500. This is mainly used for any type of election services, let it be for contracts, new equipment if we needed, and she could use that. And the county attorney operating fund, $61,000. Again, this is an operating fund that only the county attorney can use. Do you have any questions regarding the special revenue funds? Again, this has nothing to do with the general fund or the tax rate. Okay, the next step is going to be the grants. Let me make it
So
bigger.
these papers aren't in order.
This year, we do not have that many grants that are established.
Do we have a
It should be in your,
specialty court, the one that says,
which one?
one that you have up now, grant funds?
Duet?
The ones you have grant funds up on the screen? Yeah,
Yes.
I found it.
You found it? Okay.
But you were scrolling through, and so the first one I looked
I'm
at didn't
sorry.
say grant funds, so I thought I was in the wrong place.
You're good. Okay, I want to make this a little small. The first one is going to be specialty court programs. This is used for the drug court. This is a grant that we have to apply for every year. You can see that we have budget $135,000. It can only be used for the specialty courts. GIDC, 1.6. We will have to transfer 1.7 because it's a grant that is decreasing every single year, and so we do have to upfront some costs. I think this morning we have received the letters of award, and so we'll review those, and if we have to increase certain things, we'll come back to the court at a later time. Statewide automated, oh, go ahead.
What's the difference between what indigent legal services is costing us and what the grant is covering?
Oh, I have to get back to you on that one. I don't have it on top of my head. I could definitely give it to you. Okay. This is going to be the statewide automatic victim notification services, $15,000. The Edward Bryan Justice Grant, this is for the sheriff's office, $7,000. They can use it for equipment. TJJD juvenile grants, 2.1, and of course we have to transfer $949 to cover for the balances, and the only thing is covering is salary and benefits. The MPO is 100% funded from the state, $698,000. And of course, the rural law enforcement salary assistant program, 1.6. You have any questions regarding the grants?
What is this rural law enforcement salary assist?
This is where the DA and the county attorney, they use it to supplement their salaries. I think they get $250,000 each, and the sheriff does too. And they could use theirs for equipment.
Okay.
Okay? Okay.
Marcy Turner, County Auditor. Commissioner Nettles, in response to your question about how much we pay in excess. So, and when I do the tax rate discussion in a minute, we'll talk about indigent defense and year-over-year increases in indigent defense. So when I turned in the numbers to the tax assessor collector to get that tax rate calculation last year, the amount that we spent on indigent defense, this includes PDO expenditures that we absorbed for the public defender's office, the portion of the grant that we have to cover as a county, in addition to court-appointed attorneys that are not in the public defender's office, was just shy of $5.5 million.
And I assume this is a cost that is increasing as we,
It increased $406,000 over the prior year. And we get credit in our voter approval rate for that increase.
okay. I'd sure like to see the state fund us some more of that, but
That ain't happening.
Look at Dream.
who just said that?
The state of Texas is not gonna fund that. He's cutting
Green.
they're cutting everything.
Next up is we're going to review the debt service fund. With the new debt that we have absorbed in our current debt, I have budgeted $14 million to cover for the interest and principal payments for this next year.
Did we skip the back page of that?
Oh, that's just more detail. It just shows the prior year grants that we used to have, and so I'd just like to show y'all
Okay,
the ones that are starting to fall off. You can tell that there's less and less grants. Going back to the debt, to cover for our principal and interest payments, I need a budget $14 million. There is a little cushion just in case we have to go out for debt again, and so, but it's not much. Do you have any questions regarding that? I do want to show you, as I scroll down to the last page, that we will have some debt falling off in a couple years, which would be the 2012 COs. And so in 2029 will be our last payment for that.
What page are you on? Do you have these
The
pages?
very last.
They're not numbered? Okay.
Do you have any questions regarding the debt? Okay. Health and Life Fund. Out of this fund, we take care of county employees' health insurance, life insurance, as well as dental. We have the health and wellness clinic as well in here, and we have the retiree health insurance. And so we're gonna go over each group to keep them separated. So currently for the employee who are currently hired with Brazos County, we're budgeting about $28 million. And keep in mind that the increase of the health insurance, we shared a portion to the county, a portion to the employees. And so that's why you see a little bit of an increase here, is to cover for the county portion as well. The Health and Wellness Clinic, you can see that it decreased from 1.2 to 875,000 is because we deleted 3 positions to help offset some of the positions over at the clinic, at the jail. And so we moved 2 positions over there out of this fund. The wellness program is under the HR. She uses this for several items. It's mostly, it can be used for anything to keep the county employees healthy. So it could be day events, or it could be training seminars, or it could be cooking classes. And so this is what HR uses for that. The retiree health insurance, you could tell it's slightly increasing throughout the years. It went from 7 million to 7.5. The total budget for this fund is $36 million.
Wow.
A sticker shock.
Yeah.
You can tell the increase from 34 to 36, 2 million. And I think in prior discussions, when we were talking about health insurance, I think I told the court that we've been using about 2 million in fund balance each year. And so after this year, we have a remaining balance of 9. And so if we continue down this slope, we're gonna have to look at something different on our insurance. Because then the taxpayers are gonna have to start paying for it.
Because we're self-funded.
And so we keep a close eye on this. Once it gets to, say, about 5 million, that's when we need to really have a good plan. And so we're looking at it. It's just, we just have to keep mindful. Do you have any questions regarding the health insurance?
The only other thing that we need to really press for are these refunds for prescriptions. We need to get to where we're at 100%
Right.
on those rebates. We're at, I think we're at 80% now, or
Right.
something. Yeah, 80%.
And I think HR went like this, so they're working on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I do think that our formularies change each year.
Yep.
And so, it helps save the county costs. And so depending like Ozempic or whatever, it might be a tier 2 instead of a tier 1. And so some of the prices start to increase to help us save money. It's just more cost to the employees. Let me find my mouse again. Oh, okay. So that concludes the special funds. I do want to do an oversight of everything we talked about regarding the general fund, special funds, the transfers from capital, transfers from grant, to kind of give you a total number of what we're not balanced on. For the ad valorem taxes this year, and this is based off of, everything else is based off of Marcy's estimates. The only thing that I have plugged in different is that I'm using this year's ad valorem tax amount of 126 million to show the offset of the cost. So an estimated total revenues is about 221 million. And keep in mind, this is based off of this year's tax ad valorem bring in, okay, revenue. With everything that we reviewed regarding yesterday and the new positions that have been added to the budget, we are still negative 17 million. I want to break that down a little bit more. The county portion of the health insurance costs that we shared, we did a portion to the employee and portion to the county. The total was 2.1 million. Commissioners Court requested for positions that were vacant for more than 6 months to go unfunded. That saved the county 1.9. Keep in mind, I had to move that into contingency, so when the departments come asking for those positions to be funded, we have money to add it back. Increased positions, this is where we increase it 10% above the minimum. That cost the county $600,000. Additional, we added additional contingency to the, this year to cover for any position that is above mid. Because remember, we didn't cut anybody's pay. What we did is we budgeted to the mid. And so anybody above the mid or the max, we're gonna have to transfer money come probably the third quarter so we can make payroll. And so I had to reserve funding for that. The additional positions cost $729,000, and we'll review those positions real quick. We will be putting in the budget another general maintenance technician for facility services, cost the county $80,000. Felony associate judge and their bailiff, ranging $300,000. Deputy at the sheriff's office, $125,000. Remind you, this does not come with equipment. Administrative assistant for forensic services. Currently, this position is under county judge in a transition position, so this will transfer into this new position once it's created in October. 2 death investigators, 1 full-time funded and 1 unfunded. My system always budgets the health insurance. The only way that she can fill this position is she will have to come to the Commissioner's Court and ask for permission. And of course, we unfunded a part-time lab technician and a part-time educational coordinator for forensics. So those are the positions that were added in the general fund. To offset that, we also decrease, this is in special revenues that does not contribute to the general fund. We decreased 7 positions with a net increase to the county 2. So we will only increase net 2 positions this next year,
Okay.
okay? Going back up to the increase to departmental resources, $2 million. Most of the departments stayed flat. It's going to be the one-offs regarding contract increases that we can't control. Increase to community support, $939,000. Of course, here's the transfer to the capital, $11 million, and transfer to the grants that we just reviewed, $2 million. A total of $6 million was just to the general fund. Okay?
Okay.
That's it, $6 million. But in order for us to balance the budget based on today's ad valorem revenue, $17 million. So we try to keep the budget flat, as well as with the departments. We didn't really decrease because there was not much decrease of the departments. Majority of the decreases that you do see came from unfunding the positions, budgeting at the mid, but keep in mind we had to put that in contingency to cover for the what ifs next year.
Well, I think you and the staff have done a commendable job on this budget because my calculations, the $6 million increase is actually below the interest rate that we're facing this year, down to about 3.6, where we had been at 4. So I don't know that you can really expect folks to do much more than that. So I appreciate y'all's effort and tremendous duty to spend taxpayer dollars effectively. So.
It's hard. It's hard. Everybody wants something. Everybody needs something. And so we all sit together in a huddle and we review every single line item, every single expense. We review POs. We look at ways that we can, not as much as cut services, but is there a different way that we can do some services? It takes all of us. Without that, then I can only imagine what this budget would look like. So we do look at every single thing between the auditors, purchasing, HR. We do keep a close eye on a lot of stuff.
I agree with Commissioner, I'm sorry, I turned it off the call. I agree with Commissioner Nettles. You all have done a great job of streamlining our budget in a way that is acceptable. I get a little bit concerned in terms of staffing because if there is a shortage, if there is a need for the work to be done, and the staff is pretty streamlined already, but the work is either increasing or there has always been a void, that the streamlining of the budget is done on the backs of the employees. And I know in some cases, it can't be helped.
Right.
But it is a reality that in some departments, they're already pretty lean in terms of the work, but the work is not slowing up. The work is not decreasing, and in some cases, what is required for the county to operate. So we're looking at what does it take for us to have the best working county in the state. That means that we have to have really great employees.
Yeah.
And so I'm just speaking to that in acknowledgement that we're functioning sometimes on the back of, and to the stress level of, or overstressing or overworking our employees. And so we need to be aware of that and also give them the acknowledgement that we thank them for what they're doing to make us function the way that we do, because of some of the needs, in the conversations that I've had, and the requests that we've gotten in terms of what is needed and what we cannot do.
And it's hard. We always have to keep in mind that we are customer service. Let it be. All of the departments, we all are customer service.
Exactly.
We might not be all in the public, as in the courts or constables or law enforcement, but every single department within the county, we're customer service. And we have to, make sure that we're always smiling, customer's
right.
always correct.
Right, because we're people focused, we're people centered, and we're accountable to the public, and the public wants us to be accountable. They want us to have the streamlined budget that you guys have created. You've done a phenomenal job, but what I also see behind when we say no, no, no is
Well, no, okay.
is
I'm gonna
that.
be updated on the news.
Okay. But anyway, I just want to acknowledge that in some cases, not in all, but there are some departments that, in their lean meanness, they're also having to step up in a way, and possibly we're stretching, we're really stretching the staff that we
Yeah,
have.
we're searching the staff, we're searching the dollar. Will it look like this in 2028? I cannot predict that. I could just predict what we're doing
Absolutely.
here.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, we will have to find, if the court's wishes is to, keep the net positions at a minimum low or budget at a minimum low, we're gonna have to find other opportunities to do the work. And so let it be AI or data-driven or whatever, we're gonna have to come to the court and make sure that all of our I's are dotted, T's are crossed regarding making sure we can deliver to the public
Right.
based on the stuff that we
And
have.
right now, we're delivering, in some cases, because of the employees stepping up, they're willing to do the work. The
For now.
need. Uh-huh.
For now.
That's what I'm saying for now, for now. I'm just talking about now, because we're in this moment. We're going into next year. So in 2027, there will be departments where that will be the reality. Yet these folks are stepping up, and I want to commend them for that, being willing to do that so that we can serve the community
Yes, ma'am.
that we represent.
Well, and I think, and I agree with Commissioner Watson. We have some great employees doing some great work, far beyond their requirements. However, we also need to keep in mind the expectation of our public, our constituents, and that is to move toward delivering services 365 days, 24/7.
Right.
Because that's how they conduct business. With business owners, they get time to interface with the county after their business is closed. And so we really need to think about how we provide those kind of opportunities for them to interface with us without necessarily having additional employees working late shifts or night shifts or anything like that. So I know I've talked to several people in my precinct, and they said, well, we don't ask for something unless we need it. And I can appreciate that, but you really have to provide us data to justify the expenditure of taxpayer dollars so that we have top cover to say, okay, we're not only adding a person for their wages, we're adding their health insurance, $20,000 a person, we're adding their benefits on top of that, which are all great if it's needed, but the days of the county saying, yeah, I don't ever ask for something, but I really need this, you've got to come to us with more data showing why you need it, so we can make that informed decision.
And I'm very thankful on that comment because we do ask the departments to give us data every single year or every single month. A lot of them do, can't make them do it. But next year it's going to be more public. And so we're going to be data driven. It's going to be published in our book. We're going to make sure the public understands what each department does, what they show regarding, their KPIs, their goals, what direction is the county moving towards. And so we're starting to lean in that direction and just with a two-person staff. Granted, I have 2 positions unfunded, but I'm not going to talk about the budget office right now. We're doing as much as what we can with, the staff that we have. And so I'll come next year and ask for those positions to be funded. But back on that, it's data-driven. And so if y'all have any other questions regarding this issue of it, yes, sir.
Nina, on the, you have estimated spendable fund balance as of September 30th.
Oh, those are my numbers.
$65 million.
Marcy's going to talk about that. I try to make everything big enough. I'm about to bring Marcy up here.
Okay. Well, the only question I had, that's in addition to the committed emergency fund balance of $40 million, which is mandated, correct?
Which y'all passed in order.
Yes.
So yes.
Yes.
And so, but I'm going to let
So that's
Marcy,
in addition to the $65 million.
I'm going to let Marcy talk about the fund balance. That's her thing.
Okay, okay,
Sorry.
okay.
Now some Marcy stuff.
All right, thank you, Nina. Next is presentation and discussion of FY 26-27 county budget taxes. Marcy.
Actually, I'm going to be, I think it's E. I'm still going to talk about general fund because I'm going to talk about the general fund balance before we get to tax rates.
I think we're going to catch pneumonia, right? I think we're going to catch pneumonia,
I
right?
know, I'm freezing.
We need heavy prescription drugs. I think we're catching
No,
pneumonia.
no, it's
sitting
just,
there.
it's just we're cold on this side.
Yeah.
And I didn't bring my sweater down, so I'm sitting here trembling.
You want my jacket?
No, I'm good.
That right now. Okay.
Aubrey, could you see you to?
Okay, so you all have in front of you the anticipated spendable fund balance. It's 2 pages. We're going to walk through the estimate of where we're going to end up at the end of this fiscal year in September with our fund balance. When we do these calculations, we start with what the audited financial statements from 2025 had our fund balance at.
Hold on just a second, we're trying to find the document you're referring to.
Oh, sure.
So,
I don't see.
You don't have this actual, you're just gonna look on your screen.
oh, okay,
Okay, this is just a screen
Good, I
doc.
won't keep looking.
Because the numbers are nice and big, you can see it on a screen. So I didn't actually print it out for you, sorry. And I'm sorry for saying if I said that in the packet, but if you look at your screen, right in front of you. So our audited financial statement, our fund balance in the general fund, at the end of last year was $183 million. $3.2 million of that was non-spendable. It's basically items on our balance sheet that are not cash, like prepaid expenditures and inventory. Another $1.2 million of that fund balance was restricted for specific purposes, and you have a list of all of those. They include the last small bit of our ARPA money, as well as some programs where revenues come in for dedicated purposes. Then you see the $40 million that was committed for the emergency fund balance as of the end of last fiscal year 2025.
and that was done on a vote of this commission,
Yes.
and also at a recommendation of our creditors.
Yes. So the court, not all, I don't think all of you were on, but the court in '24 passed a resolution to commit emergency fund balance. And the stipulation of the resolution was that 25% of ongoing revenues, not one-time revenues, but ongoing revenues each year would be set aside into a committed emergency fund balance. So at the end of last year, it was $40 million. That was based off FY '24 revenues. And then I come back to you sometime in the spring, which I did early April, and we did a recalc on what the revenues were through September 30th of '25, and we added another $2.2 million to that committed emergency fund balance. And again, the court can access that once they declare an emergency. The reason that we have done that is because, number one, it preserves some fund balance for emergency purposes, and number two, our bond counsel and bond financial advisors, as well as rating agencies, look very favorably on municipalities and counties that set aside some of their fund balance for emergency purposes. And that was reflected in our, and is
Bond.
continued to reflect it in our credit ratings.
And we're AA plus.
We're AA plus.
Which
Yes.
costs the taxpayers less in interest rate. So
Exactly.
it's a wise financial move in order for us to follow the advice of our financial advisors. I mean, I don't think anybody really wants to set aside a lot of taxpayer dollars, but if it makes sense, financial sense, in order for us to have to pay a lower interest rate on bonds, where we go out and borrow money to build these big buildings that are going to last 70 years, it makes sense.
Correct.
And I would add that there's a lot on your end, in reporting and keeping up with things to keep that rating. So great work on y'all and what you do every day. Because, and then not only is that saving money to have that money there, but God forbid we ever had to use it. It would be there, the disaster or pandemic, any number of things could have us draw to that and it would be there. I think we saw during COVID, some counties not far from here were in bad financial conditions. They didn't have such a thing, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
So after we do all that, then I take a calculation of what our budget was for this year and estimate what our revenues are going to come in and what our estimated expenditures are. And if you were going to do a comparison to what we actually adopted for revenues, I back out any planned use of fund balance. I back out the assigned fund balance that we have every year for indigent defense. Indigent health. And then I also back out any contingency reserves that we had budgeted in our revenue numbers to balance the budget. For the estimated expenditures, if you were to compare that to what we passed for the budget for last year, I backed out any unused transfers. That included transfers to our capital improvement fund. That included transfers that we had originally budgeted to pay for the courthouse annex and the renovation of this administration building in all cash. So because we went out for debt, I reduced the amount of the expenditures for the amount of cash that we did not transfer into those capital funds. I also put in and reduced the expenditures by the amount of the unused indigent health expenditure line item, the unused contingency, and then we also have $12.6 million in capital projects that are rolling till next year. So if you'll notice on this sheet, we reduced it here out of this expenditure line item, but then assigned those rollover projects to an assigned fund balance. So you can see it, that we still have those encumbered. We did not spend them this year. We're going to spend them next year, but we're not going to tax the citizens again. We're going to just use assigned fund balance because it didn't come out of this budget this year. It dropped to the fund balance, and then we're going to assign it and use that fund balance to cover that portion of the expenditures for next year. All of that gets us to $76.5 million in fund balance. Oh, in addition, forgot about the most important thing. You all, a couple of weeks ago, committed $20 million in deferred maintenance, and that's also out of this calculation. So after all of that, we have $76 million that will be estimated in fund balance in the general fund that is spendable. So that is, this money is after the $20 million, it's already been set aside for deferred maintenance, and after the committed emergency fund balance, you have $76 million in the fund balance to help balance the budget. Do y'all have any questions on that?
So I know, So I know that there are 254 counties, 254 solutions, but do we have any idea the other 10 populated counties around us in terms of similar size, what they're setting aside as their fund balance? Are we at the high end, low end, in the middle?
I have no idea. I can look that, I mean, I can do some research and get back to you on that.
Okay, I was just curious because, it seems like a big number, but the reality is we're 254,000 people in our county. We're getting to be a big county, so.
On that $20 million deferred maintenance fund, there's probably no way that all 20 million will be spent in this next fiscal year. Will that just carry forward?
It will carry forward the whatever's not spent. It's committed at this point, so you
Yeah.
would have to uncommit
Okay,
for us to lower that.
okay, thank you.
Well, I'd sure like for them to spend it if we're deferred maintenance, some $50 million, and 20 million just scratch the surface. So we ought to be able to hire a lot of local contractors to do maintenance on our buildings.
Let's hope so.
I know the goal of
Let's hope
all
they'll be local.
those, we had a meeting last week, and the goal of all those involved is to get as much of that $20 million encumbered before next September. So it may not be
Okay.
spent by next September, but the goal is to have contracts to encumber all that.
Good, that's great.
If you'll now look to the next page that I'm going to show up on the screen. So knowing that we have $76 million estimated in fund balance at the beginning of this year, we already have some of that that is assigned within the budget that Nina has put in front of you. We usually and historically have assigned $6.5 million in contingency. We don't want to tax the citizens for the contingency, so we use fund balance for that portion of the budget. And then also, we have and Nina has probably spoken to this before, and if you have specific questions, she'll walk through the statutes. But there's some state regulations on us having to cover a certain percentage of indigent health. We have never had to pay that portion. We put it in the budget as an expense line item, but we don't tax the citizens for it. We use fund balance to counteract that expense line item. So after those two things, so far that are used in the budget, you'll have $65 million in the fund balance.
Plus the 40 million, correct?
Yes, but we're going to act like that doesn't exist
I
because it's
understand.
committed for emergency
I
purposes.
understand, but in reality,
Yes,
okay.
yes. So $65 million to balance the budget for all years going forward. Remember, this is not just for this year. This is basically somewhat like in a personal budget, the savings account that we have the ability to use to balance all future budget years with at this point. Any questions on any of that?
Good explanation, thank you.
Okay. All right. So now, do I click? Yeah, thanks. While Aubrey's pulling all that up, this is the part where we get really technical on the presentation. So if you all and anybody needs a break, now would be a good chance to do it, because otherwise we're gonna go into about 40 minutes of pretty detailed information. So take a break. Okay.
Sure.
Take a cough drop.
I can refuel.
Judge Peters, how long should we break for? Okay, great. Thank you.
Y'all ready?
Well, we're here. I don't know if we're.
All right.
This part. Go. Be gentle, Marcy.
Okay, let's talk property tax rates and how we get to the calculation of property tax rates. This presentation will be very similar to last year, just with updated information. And the presentation is for the benefit of the judge and the commissioner's court, but also more importantly for the benefit of our citizens. This will be out on YouTube, and if anyone wants to learn how we calculate tax rates and all that's involved with property tax rates, it's a good primer, and we'll also go through the specifics of the data that how we're getting to our tax rates for this year.
Will this be a continued recording of the meeting so far, or will it be its own new recording?
It's a continued.
Okay. So 1 hour in, I'm just making note because I want people to be, I want to be able to tell people, if you want to really see how that's calculated, go to the recording and 1 hour in and you can.
Okay, property tax revenues. Property tax revenues are calculated by taking the tax rate and multiplying it by the taxable value. The tax rate is set by you, the Commissioner's Court, and the taxable value is set by the Brazos Central Appraisal District. The taxable value is a snapshot of around July 25th. This year it came in on the 21st. And taxable values change on a daily basis. When the appraisal district set our taxable value, there were many properties that were still going through what they call appraisal review. The property holder challenged their appraised value. They had not finished their hearing. So those will be calculated in estimates. But the appraised value is set as of that day. And then obviously, depending upon what happens during appraisal review and protests, that valuation will change in the future. The Brazos Central Appraisal District is an independent organization. It's separate from Brazos County. We've got some property tax terms. They're very familiar to many of us and to the commissioners and to the judge, but it may not be familiar to our citizens, so we'll go through those real quickly. The no new revenue rate. The no new revenue rate's the tax rate that we set that raises roughly the same amount of revenue as the previous years on properties that were taxed in both years. The voter approval rate, that's the highest rate that a local taxing unit can set before they have to go out to the voters to adopt. Of our property tax rate, we have two components. The first is called the M&O rate. That stands for maintenance and operations. It's the portion of the tax rate that's designated for maintenance and operations. It's the portion of the tax rate that gets deposited into the general fund. And then we have what's called an INS rate. Most people call it the debt rate. It's the portion of the tax rate that's designated to pay our interest and principal on our debt for the next year, and it is deposited into the debt fund. So what impacts our no new revenue rate? There are several things that impact that, and the first chunk of things impacts prior year taxable values and current year taxable values, and those include things like tax ceilings, the amount that's still under dispute from prior year values, the amount that we've settled that have been settled, we haven't settled them, but that have been settled in dispute on prior year values, any changes to prior year exemptions, and any appraised values that we have in a tax increment financing zone. I want to specifically point out number 2 and number 3, the prior year value loss from settled disputes and the estimated value loss from unsettled disputes. Those will come up as we talk about our specific situation for this year. The other thing that impacts no new revenue rate is any changes to the prior year tax levy. And specifically, that's any taxes that we have refunded to taxpayers for years preceding last year. In the process of, this is after appraisal review, if a taxpayer still disputes their taxes, they will pay their taxes and they will go into legal dispute with the taxing authorities. Once that dispute is settled, if their value is dropped, then those taxes that they paid will have to be refunded, and that's what that is.
But that's only the portion of taxes between what the appraisal district set and what they agreed upon, correct?
Exactly. So for
Okay.
instance, if 10% of the value was disputed and their property value dropped by 10%, it would be the amount of the tax of that 10%
Okay.
of the value loss. Thanks for that clarification. Now let's talk about what impacts voter approval rate. So the same first two things that impact no new revenue rate also impact voter approval rate, and that is changes to prior year taxable values, so all those things we just talked about on the prior screen, as well as refunded taxes for years preceding the prior year. There are a couple of additional items that are included in our voter approval rate that I think it's important that the court and the judge and our citizens understand. And that is that in our voter approval rate, we get credit for year-over-year increases in state criminal justice, in indigent health, and in indigent defense. This year, that's about a half a cent added to our voter approval rate. We also put in our current debt rate in the voter approval rate, and we also include something called an unused increment rate. It's basically where the tax entity is able to bank cents that weren't used in the past that are below the voter approval rate. It also has a lot of math in it. If anybody wants me to explain it to it, it could be a side conversation. It's kind of like calculus. And our current unused increment rate for this year is 0 cents, so it does not apply for us in this year's voter approval rate calculation. Oops.
Before you go any further, I think we also, because more often than not, we hear from homeowners about the property taxes. One of the things I think we need to make clear is when you're talking about the value, taxable value, you're talking about home ownership and commercial property.
Right. When we talk about taxable value, we talk about taxable value in the aggregate for the entire county. So that includes land, that includes retail, commercial, multifamily, residential, residential that's owned for investment purposes. It also includes property taxes on mineral rights. So it's all of the property that the taxes are calculated on, not just home ownership.
And I don't know if this is an aside, somebody asked me that question when I was talking about what we're getting ready to do, and they asked the question, and I'm going to lovingly call them Aggie Shacks. Are they considered commercial, or because they're rental property?
They're a residential property, but they are not a homestead.
And by state law, homestead is 10% maximum per year.
Yes.
And all other properties are 20% maximum per year, correct?
All other properties under $5 million
Yes.
at present. That's the law now. Let's talk a little bit about our data that's come in this year. We have a very interesting situation county-wide for Brazos County. This impacts all taxing entities within Brazos County, including school districts and the cities. Our taxable values for existing properties in the aggregate are down over last year. If you'll notice, I go back 5 years in this data. It's always grown 5%, 10%, differs from year to year. It has never been down in the 5-year history that we've had. We'll talk a little bit about how that happened in a couple of screens. The next piece that makes it even more interesting is our taxable values on new properties is way up over prior years. The past 3 years, we've run about $800 million in new property values. This year was over $1.1 billion. And we see that because of the amount of towers that are coming online in Northgate. And when they're in mid-construction, they're valued at what they are at that point of the construction process. Let's get into some specifics about our taxable values, specifically for Brazos County for this year. Last year, when I came to you and we set the tax rate, you set the tax rate based off a certified taxable value of $34.2 billion. Our taxable values are always as of the first of that year. So on January 1st of 2025, our certified taxable values were $34.2 billion. We added last year, 1/1/2025 to 1/1/2026, a $1.1 billion in new properties. Of the existing properties, of those $34 billion worth of properties from last year, in all categories excluding minerals, we had a $1.4 billion increase in taxable value on existing properties. Specifically in the minerals category, we had a $319 million taxable value loss.
Why was that?
That's a good question
Okay.
to ask the appraisal district.
Okay.
Yeah, because oil prices seem to be up. I filled up my truck today.
I think the challenge is this appraised value was done before a skirmish in the Arabian Gulf, and so
Yeah, based on that date, sure would have been.
I would think that this probably will bounce back up a little bit next year.
Well, that's a gentle way to call it, skirmish. I know,
I don't want to be political.
got you, I got you.
So then we have a loss from homestead cap. So as Commissioner Brown spoke, our taxable value on existing properties, that $1.4 billion on the third line, that includes all increases in homestead, even if they're over the cap. If a homestead has a taxable value increase of more than 10%, the excess is reduced out of our taxable values, and it's in that loss from homestead cap of $35 million. That's a $35 million increase over last year.
You would think that they would figure out how to do their job, and that 10% is the maximum. So all they're doing here is just hurting us, because we assume the numbers that they give us are accurate, and then they come back and say, well, we made $35 million worth of mistakes on the homestead.
Well, I don't think that that's necessarily the case. This is $35 million off the 1.4 increase from year to year. So it's basically just I don't work for the appraisal district, but I think that the reason that this is because we have an appraised value, taxable value, and then we have a homestead limitation. But if you sell your property, they're going to change the taxable value probably higher for next year to the new owners. That's more market, which is probably in the over 10% increase category.
Okay.
And then the loss from 23.231 cap, they call that the circuit breaker cap. It's all non-homesteads, $5 million or less, can only have a taxable value increase of 20%. That's been in effect for several years now. It's set to expire in December of this year. I don't know if that's going to get extended or not, but that loss, that increase in loss this year is $341 million. Then we move to an estimated loss on property under protest. Historically, the appraisal district has done a calculation off all properties, all values, all years. So if I have a $50 million apartment complex and I'm challenging my last 3 years of valuation, it's counted 3 times, okay? All values, all properties under protest, they have usually estimated our loss at 8%. This year, they estimated our loss at 10%. And I think that is due to what we saw happen last year with the losses that were actually completed and the amount of refunds we did last year. That equals $388 million in loss. That's 10%. That means at the time of this certification, we had $3.8 billion in properties under protest. And when I say that, again, that is not just going to the appraisal review board. This is properties have gone beyond that process. The majority of these will be large commercial, retail, multifamily protests. Then the other piece we need to look at is in November, the voters of the state approved a additional exemption on business personal property. Up until that point on business personal property, you had a $2,500 exemption. If you had business personal property valued at $2,500 or less, you didn't pay any taxes on that. If you had business personal property valued at more than that, you got the first $2,500 you didn't have to pay for. They increased that exemption from $2,500 to $125,000. And so therefore, that amount of business personal property is not taxable, and that value calculated at $396.9 million. And then we also had additional exemptions of other categories of $168.9 million. That includes over 65 exemptions, military exemptions, disabled exemptions, surviving spouses exemptions, that all totaled an additional $168 million. All that to say that when you look at our certified taxable value for the tax year 2026, and that's what we'll use to calculate our tax rate, it's $35.187 billion. $1.1 billion of that is new properties. And the existing values went down $165 million. We talked last year about settled value loss. These are actual protests that were settled last year. And I came to you last year and talked about how that had grown 10x from the prior year. And we had just under $130 million in settled property value loss last year. We had even more than that this year. And that impacts directly our no new revenue rate and our voter approval rate. Last year, I also talked to you about how our refunds from years preceding the prior year had increased almost fourfold from the average at a little over, right at a little under $1.2 million. And this year, that trend has continued, and we've refunded even more than that than we did last year. And again, this number directly impacts our no new revenue rate and our voter approval rate. Last year, we talked about as appraised values go up, they're inversely related to no new revenue rate and voter approval rate. So as existing appraised values go up, the no new revenue rate will go down and the voter approval rate will go down. This year, we're in an interesting situation that existing taxable values actually went down, which means that our no new revenue rate is going up and our voter approval rate is going up. And again, this is a situation that is county-wide. It is not just for our taxing entity. This is true of both cities and both school districts. So let's talk tax rates and what they look like this year versus last year. Our no new revenue rate last year was 387,683. That's pennies per $100 valuation, and it's going up 2.6975 cents to a no new revenue rate of 414,658. Let's put this in context. Our tax rate last year was 4.197. So our no new revenue rate is a little less than half a penny lower than our tax rate we adopted last year. If you go back to this screen, you'll see that last year when we were adopted, our tax rate was just under the voter approval rate. This year, our tax rate from last year is just above our no new revenue rate for this year. The voter approval rate is 423,059, and that's about a 3.2 cent increase. Oh, sorry, that's the voter approval rate from last year. It's 423,059, and we have a 3.2 cent increase in that to a 0.455272 voter approval rate. If we'll drop down to the debt rate, which is the last item on that page, last year our debt rate was 3.0246 cents per $100 of valuation. It's gone up 8/10 of a cent to 0.038474. We issued debt this year. We knew that debt rate would go up, but it is still lower than the debt rate we adopted in FY24. Our debt rate decreased almost an entire penny between 24 and 26 because we retired debt and did not issue any debt during that time frame. Does anybody have any questions about this page?
Marcy, can you tell us what the difference is to the average homeowner? How much more on the no new revenue rate as opposed to the voter approval rate?
I will when we get through all of the presentation. That's the last page.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So let's talk about tax rates and a balanced budget. When we're setting a tax rate, we do more than just balance the budget for this year coming up. We also have to think about what the tax rate, setting the tax rate for this year does for future years' budget years. We are moving and trying to move as a staff towards a strategy with your approval of having our M&O revenues, setting a tax rate so that our M&O revenues, our maintenance and operation revenues in the general fund cover our maintenance and operation expenses. They don't currently. And we need to, in the next 5 to 8 year window, get into a situation where that is the case.
And so that number, we're deficit, according to Nina's presentation, about $17 million.
Yes.
Of the 65 available, and that'll keep happening until we achieve M&O revenues being met with our budget.
Exactly.
So it's dangerous to make a statement that 65 million is just sitting there because we're drawing down that until we arrive at this big goal of M&O being paid for in the budget.
Yes.
It's important for everyone to understand that because that in the past, that's become a political rallying cry where you're just sitting on all this money. Well, if that money goes away, then what are you going to do next year when M&O is not there? Sorry, that's just my little diatribe. But
No, that's great. Thank you.
hammer that home.
Thank you. Yes, so the goal is to get to a point in the next 5 to 8 years where our tax rate and the amount of our tax rate that goes into maintenance and operations is covering ongoing maintenance and operation expenses. In a home, that would be just like your salary is covering your day-to-day. We also want to have a strategy where we're using fund balance for special projects and or one-time charges. So we're not taxing the citizens for ongoing maintenance and operation expenses. I mean, we are taxing the citizens for ongoing maintenance and operation expenses. We're not taxing them for one-time things. We're using fund balance for that. And that we're using debt to fund capital projects, as the court did this year in the strategy on issuing debt on the courthouse annex and also on the remodel of the administration building. We want to put debt on assets that have a long life, more than 20 years. We're issuing debt at 20 years. We're building assets that are going to last much longer than that. That's better use of funds as opposed to using fund balance to pay for those projects or raising taxes to pay for those projects. And then also, when we're setting a tax rate, we have to do that in the context of the current state legislative climate and what we're hearing from state officers about the kinds of restrictions that might come on local governments as far as being able to set tax rates. Does anybody have any questions about all of that information?
No, excellent presentation.
Oh, thank you so much. Or any comments that you want to make for the benefit of anyone who might be listening?
Yeah, my frustration is not with the work of the staff, but my quick calculations are, of that 17 million, we have 3.5 million unfunded mandate regarding indigent legal services. We have $5 million unfunded mandate indigent healthcare, $2 million healthcare cost, escalating healthcare cost of our county employees, and then another $500,000 for healthcare costs for our retirees, which gets us to about $10.5 million, and then $1.3 million because of the settlement valuation by the appraisal district. And so that takes us almost to $12 million of that $17 million are being funded by, and I hate to say this, but, you know, I believe voters should have a say. Maybe we need to adopt a rate that will go to the voters for them to make a decision on whether they want to pay this off. So
But unfunded mandates are out of our control.
they are absolutely out of
They're
our
out of
control.
our
They're
control,
in control of our
and-
state rep
And
and
our, yeah,
senators.
right. And our, you know, our Texas legislature and our governor, I mean, just this morning, they showed a little excerpt of him talking about reducing property taxes. And so, you know, the operation of the county, you know, it creates a problem not only just for us with school board, all these kinds of things. And so unfortunately, we're being tasked, we're sort of the bad guy because we have these unfunded mandates that we're actually putting on the backs of our local taxpayers, which they grundle about, which they do complain about. And so we're just kind of in a catch-22. We have to operate, we have to do these things, and the state legislature mandates that we do. I mean, that's a pretty heavy lift, but it is a necessary lift. And so I don't know, you know, because when you talk about the voters, we already have a voter-approved tax rate. Taking it to the voters, you know, we think we're in trouble now, we'd absolutely be in trouble because they'd say no, no, no to everything.
Marcy, what's the outgoing, what's the balance right now of property tax in dispute? Property, yeah. You know.
When we certified, it was $3.8 billion.
Wow.
$3.8 billion.
And it goes back 3 or 4 years.
And
So
so that's, by observation, that's your big sky rises, your tens of million, hundreds of $1 million properties that are
Right.
new to Brazos County that are fighting, and they're not fighting this year, they're fighting 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Right.
Rates. So, you know, if you have property A and it's valued at $100 million and they want to fight that, and they're fighting it from year 1, year 2, year 3, that's $300 million in revenue that is looked at as potentially
Value.
value, property value, that you will not get to then apply your tax rate toward potentially. So there's a lot of unknowns as you're setting a budget for a growing county with, my goodness, look at the things that are coming here or near here, and the needs that we'll have for more judicial, more law enforcement, more mandated care and things that the state make us do.
Roads and bridges.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's just
everything.
it's a lot to consider, and I just want for everyone at home to remember that it's not so easy as a bumper sticker mentality. You've got to really plan for the growth of the county and things that you can't control coming from Austin, unfunded mandates, and $3.5 billion in valuation being disputed right now with the tax authority. So, a lot going on.
Well, and I think one of the things that has come to light recently is the AI battle, artificial intelligence battle going on between the property tax valuation and those who are contesting it, because they punch a button and they continue to renew that protest. it doesn't take a lot of man-hours for them to do it now. There was an article in The Economist about it, the battle between government appraisers and those protesting the valuations. And the folks protesting valuations are winning. And the people doing that are the large commercial real estate owners that we have here who come in and provide student housing, which is the lifeblood of our university. And so it's just really frustrating that we don't have a more sustainable vision of what those revenues are going to be so we can make adequate decisions in determining our budget.
I see two big problems. One problem is the governor's out there, or the governor's office out there saying, we're going to get rid of property taxes on your homestead. They haven't come up with a way to offset that. You know, it's all re-election rhetoric.
Right.
But it gets the population stirred up because, oh, we can go and ask for a rollback and we might get our taxes down. So,
And it makes us the heavy,
Yeah.
you know, so we have to sit here and confront the taxpayers because of, in essence, political speak.
Yeah.
And it makes us look like we're not doing what we do, yet we've been mandated, you know, you carry the heavy lift. And we're not, you're just hearing us make comments. It's not directed at you. But it's sort of like, you know, that's why I was wanting to make sure that people understood when we're talking about property valuation in Brazos County, that, that people understand it's not just their homestead, but it's also all of this commercial property. And so we all want this growth in Brazos County, but then those folks are also fighting to undervalue. So we're not getting the value, we're not getting the benefit of some of this new construction coming in because they're going to try to do everything they can and then have the possibility of requesting tax abatements. You know, they're not paying their portion.
well, my other issue is with the appraisal district, and of course, I take them on every year. It's gotten to be a sport for me. But let me give you one example. I have a property out on 1179, and they tried to double it in 1 year, double the value in 1 year with no improvements. And I went before them, and they couldn't tell me why. So I took them to mediation, and they called me a week before I was supposed to be in mediation, and they said, how about if we can settle this for $55,000? And I said, we have a deal. My problem with the appraisal board is, where do they get these numbers? Do they just have a beer party and say, let's just figure this and figure this? It hurts us and it hurts the cities because there's no rhyme or reason to the way they get to these numbers. They say, okay, you have a house in this neighborhood, so we're gonna take 17 houses that are similar. They may be a lot bigger, they may be a lot more expensive, but they put all that together and try to raise your property to coincide with what the other values are.
Well, I think it's important to remind the folks at home also that even though we work hard, the staff works hard to try to get our M&O down and keep it down, we get these unfunded mandates thrown on top of it. Even with all that, what will be true this year, next year, the year after, will be that the portion of your property taxes that go to Brazos County will be the smallest portion that you pay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, when you look at your bill, you know, we get the bare minimum of what everybody else gets. And I'm not, because I'm pro property taxes in terms of funding education. I am pro education. So I don't complain about that, you know, the fact that they're talking about defunding public education is, you know, I know that's not our issue, but I'm just throwing it out there. The fact that they're talking about doing that just breaks my heart because I'm like I said, I'm a product of public schools, and so I get upset. But on that scale from city to school board to county, we're just a fraction of what we get. And yet we have all of these things that we're required to do for our constituents, and they want us to do, but then they don't want to pay for it also.
I just got to say for the record that Kyle and I, when we were in the legislature, we never voted for any unfunded mandates. So just for the record.
You gonna put your hand over your promise?
I wanted to make sure that for the citizens who might be listening, that when we talk about existing values, existing taxable values going down, that's in the aggregate. That may not be for every home owner. Mine is at the 10% cap. another person on staff, theirs went down last year. Their taxable value went down last year. So it is an aggregate of all properties combined. So you, as commissioners, may have individuals who call you to say, what do you mean existing values went down? Mine went up. Well, they're, in the aggregate, it went down.
Some did and some didn't, in essence.
Exactly.
And yours
Exactly.
may be the one that didn't.
Any more questions or comments before we go to some scenarios?
No, you didn't.
No,
Aubrey, I'm going to need you to help me figure out how to get to the right. The next document. Okay. Oh, yes, I do. Thank you. I can't see that, so.
I think it's a spreadsheet.
I think we could bring ice cream down here.
And it wouldn't melt.
It wouldn't melt.
We need more bodies in here to warm this room up.
That's the
I
truth.
think that's what it is. We had to put more folks in here. It wasn't this bad yesterday, but today.
Hey,
it's-
Jesse, can I request that you do full screen on this for if someone's watching online? And then we can revert to screen and screen.
And they can't see your lovely face?
I want them to see the numbers more importantly.
Actually, that's. Your thing is not on.
I gave up my speaking? Oh, okay, great. Here are the numbers. Look.
They speak for themselves.
Okay, so let's look at tax rates and what those different tax rates would contribute to the general fund at a 98% collection rate. So last year we adopted at 4.197, which is the top line, and that brought in 120, and I'm going to look at down at my page, $125.9 million into the general fund budgeted. At the NNR, we would bring in an additional $615,000 into the general fund. And the rest would have to be funded with fund balance. If you go all the way down to the very bottom line, which is the VAR, and that VAR is at a 455,272. Again, the VAR is the maximum rate that we can set without voter approval. Anything over that, we have to go to the voters for approval. And that's $138.2 million. And that would bring additional $12.9 million into the general fund. I have highlighted on this page our adopted rate of last year. It's the pink line. It's 0.4197. If we stayed at last year's rate, we would only bring about $2.1 million in additional revenue into the general fund. One of the things I want to highlight, which is really important, and I don't have this on the screen, but I did the math. At the NNR, with $125.9 million into the general fund, $4 million of that's coming from new properties. So actually, existing properties would only pay $121, which is what they paid into the general fund, less than what they paid into the general fund last year. Then the other two rates that I want to talk about, it's the two darker green rates, are what's called the NNR M&O, adjusted, unadjusted, and adjusted. And when Melissa Leonard, the tax assessor collector, does our truth in taxation calculations, these are 2 points in the calculation to get to a voter approval rate. And what that is it's the amount of funds that went into the general fund last year with maintenance and operations, and then it's adjusted for changes in taxable value. So if you look at the NNR M&O unadjusted plus our debt rate, it brings in about $5.2 million, and four or something of that is from new properties. And then more importantly, there's what's called an NNR M&O adjusted, and that's where we get the credit for the year-over-year increase in state criminal justice, indigent defense, indigent health. So any rate below that, we are not getting credit for year-on-year increases in those three categories.
When you say get credit, what does that mean?
Well, instead of, it's kind of like they allow us to increase our tax rate
To kind of cover?
to cover the increases in expenses in those three categories. And if we don't at least adopt at that, we are not getting credit for the increases. We're having to absorb the
So
increases
they're
in
trying to say,
expenses.
it's unfunded, but we'll give you this little nugget.
But it's just the increase. It's not the
Right,
whole
right,
dollar
right,
amount.
right,
It's
right.
the
I understand, but
increase.
it's trying to give us just a little bit of something
Right.
to offset that cost of unfunded mandates.
Something.
So now I've got two tax rates highlighted with the revenues highlighted in orange, and that's 0.443474 and a half a penny higher, 448,474. And we're going to run scenarios on 4 tax rates. We're going to run the low, which is the NNR. We're going to run the high, which is the VAR. And we're going to run those 2 tax rates, and I'm going to show you 8 years out what that looks like as far as balancing this year's budget and fund balance to balance future years' budgets. And I'm assuming I have to just click to the next page. Oh, got it. Great. Thank you. Okay. Okay. The first one is the NNR rate. And you have a copy of this right in front of you. You also have it on your screen right in front of you. It might be easier to read than looking up on the big screen. Last year I came to you with these similar scenarios, and there's a couple of assumptions that I want to make sure that everybody understands. We have put in, with Nina's help, all the other revenues, non-property tax, and all of the expenses, and we have separated out the one-time transfers for this year. If you'll notice at the very bottom of your expenditures, there's $32.625 million of one-time transfers. And if you look up in the revenue section, you'll see that same number, 32.625. That's being funded with fund balance. So that's the $20 million of deferred maintenance that you guys committed a couple weeks ago. And that's also the $12.625 million in encumbrance roll. We're using assigned fund balance to pay for those. If you'll notice, those numbers are not going forward because those are one-time things. All the other categories, if it's expenses, we've grown it at 2.5% year over year, very conservative in a climate of inflationary pressure in the last several years. And we've grown other revenues at 2.5%. And then I've grown property taxes existing at 2.5%, plus an additional $3 million in new valuations every year. I think it's pretty conservative. I don't think it's overly aggressive. I don't think it's overly conservative. I think it's just right. And with that, we're going to put in to the taxable value, or to the ad valorem tax number, what we would raise with no new revenue. And when you do that, you'll see that to balance this year's budget, it's $18.1 million. And if we were to continue with all those assumptions, in 8 years, our M&O revenues would still not exceed our M&O expenses. We would still be using fund balance to balance our budget in 8 years. Now, I don't have a crystal ball, So I have no idea what the future will bring, but I'm just using assumptions that we have right now and the data that we know right now. And if we were to do that, we would burn through $91.6 million worth of fund balance, which at this present moment we do not have. So it is my recommendation to this court that adopting a no new revenue rate strategy for this year and for future years is not a fiscally sustainable strategy for the county. The next rate we're going to look at is the VAR rate. So we've done the low. Now we're going to swing 180 degrees to the high. And if we pop in the amount of revenue we would raise with the voter approval rate, we would still not have a balanced budget for this year. But we would only need $5.8 million to balance the budget. And then we would go into a maintenance and operations positive situation where revenues would exceed expenses, given all of those assumptions, in FY 2029-2030. And to get there, we would burn through $11.9 million worth of fund balance. I also want to note, and I didn't do this on the expenditures, that I have put into those future year expenditures the knowns, which include operations of the courthouse annex. And it also includes the expiration of the Public Defender's Office grants over the next 5 years, and all of that staff coming on to the general fund budget. Then the next strategy we have, or next scenario, is 448474. If we were to adopt this tax rate, we would need $7.8 million to balance the general fund budget. We would go into a positive revenue exceeding expenses, one-time ongoing expenses, in year FY 2030-2031. And to do that, we would use $20.4 million worth of fund balance. And then the last scenario is half a penny less. There we go. And that's 443474 as a tax rate. We would need $9.399 million to balance the budget for this year. In FY 2031-2032, our maintenance and operations revenues would exceed expenses, and we would use $27.9 million of fund balance to get there. Do you all have any questions on these 4 scenarios?
It's very helpful. Thank you.
Very, 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 very.
Thank you.
So you're saying we would start to see recovery 3 years, 4 years, all the way out to 5 years,
Yes, ma'am.
depending on which of those rates we use.
Provided that we hold expenses,
Right,
yes,
Yes. Yeah, this is something of a guessing game.
yes.
The buck stops here.
I have the ability to, I'm going to go back to this first page. It will take a little bit of a keyboard and pulling up a spreadsheet, but if there's any other scenarios you'd like to see on those tax rates, we could run those. But that gives you a low, a high, and then what I recommend is a comfortable spend down of fund balance to get there. The other 2 scenarios, you
Okay.
still have to use $29 million or $19 million to get to
Right.
a balanced budget in future years.
Okay.
I'd just like to know how much per $100 value, it would go up for an average homeowner?
We've got that for you.
Okay.
Are you limping? What did you do, sit on your, what did you do, sit on your ankle? Or you just getting old?
Is it the next tab? Okay, great, thank you. So Nina did her house graphic. So what we're looking at is first of all, the average homestead went up in value. Even though our existing taxable values went down, we've also had new homesteads added to the property rolls, and our average homestead went up in value from the prior year. So some of this total tax paid increase will be in increase in taxable value in addition to an increase in a tax rate. If we look at the tax rate from last year, basically that 4197, even with that 4197, the average homestead, because it's increased in value, would see an annual increase of $36.85. The NNR is that 414658, which is the first pink, the second line. The NNR, the average homestead would see an annual increase of $16.49. If you go all the way to the very last line, which is the VAR of 455272, the average homestead would see an annual increase of $180.50. And again, just to remind everybody and those who are listening, this is on county property taxes only. And then the two rates that we're looking at the other two scenarios were 443474 and 448474. They're kind of about 3/4 of the way down. The lower, each average homestead would see an increase of $132.86 for the year. And for the higher rate, $153.05. Am I reading the numbers correctly? I'm not? No, you are. Okay, good.
You are.
No, because those numbers are really tiny on that screen. Okay. So that's the impact to the average homestead in the county. Any questions or comments?
Great job.
And again, this situation of large new valuations and reduction in existing property valuations is a scenario that all the other taxing entities in the county are also facing. We good? Okay. Thank you so much.
No, we're not
Thank
good,
you.
but good information, to help us try to make the best informed decision that we can, because you have clearly given us great information.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank
Marcia.
you.
So now we can whip out the flask?
Sure. First, we need to adopt a budget. Again, I just want to thank everybody for attending the workshops, participating in the workshops, gathering all this information, the department heads, elected officials, staff. Like I said, without them, we could not be here today presenting this information to y'all. I do want to remind you that there are upcoming dates that will be on your calendar that's very pertinent based on statutes. And so, first of all, I'm gonna go ahead and propose a budget. I'll follow with the county clerk, in the near future. I'm still, after we get the tax rate, I'll still, need to balance the budget after Tuesday. Once I've followed, I'll give y'all a copy. Changes to the proposed budget. The deadline to give me written notice, if y'all would like to add anything in the process for adoption, will be August 21st. It's a Friday. If y'all like for me to sit with y'all to kind of go over again what's in the budget regarding personnel, departmental budgets, please let me know. I'll be happy to sit one-on-one with you. Public hearings. Due to the tax rate and the budget, we will have to have a public hearing. They'll be set for September 1, right before we adopt the budget. And the adoption of the tax rate and budget will be September 1. So those are the upcoming dates. It will be put in your calendar. I'll make sure I'll wear T-shirts. We're gonna have posters. I don't know how else to make it known. September 1, we're adopting the budget and then tax rate. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Do you have any questions now? If not, thank y'all so much for your time. We had a lot of information these last 3 days, and I know it's overwhelming, but it's a lot.
Thank you.
What's 2?
2 days.
2 days.
3 days. We had 2.5. Okay, 2.5 days. Last week. Remember last week?
Oh, yeah.
I know I'm insane right now, but
All right. Thank you both for the hard work.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
good presentation, not only for Commissioners Court, but for the public. So thank you both. That
hope they were-
said, any other comments before we adjourn? All right, next item is to adjourn. Thank y'all.
So tomorrow's no, we're done for now.
Tomorrow's canceled. Unless y'all want to come just for the heck of it, tomorrow's canceled. And I'll make sure there's no.
Okay.
But I have lunch.